Hey, I'm Jason.
And I'm Dave.
Welcome to the Nova Game Demos YouTube channel. Today, Dave and I are going to be competing to see which of us can be the best dungeon boss. We're going to try and entice heroes into our dungeon and then smite them so that way we can collect their souls. For today's game, we're playing Boss Monster. Boss Monster is a 2 to 4 player dungeon crawler card game where each player plays as a boss, trying to attract heroes to their dungeon and lure them to their demise. The first boss to collect 10 heroes' souls will be the victor of the game. The turns are played simultaneously, so all players play their turn at the same time, and which player's action takes place first is determined by some different factors that we're going to discuss as we break down the game. So let's do that now. Let's break it down.
Break it down.
Break it down!
In the game Boss Monster, you're going to get, of course, the game box with the rule book. And in this game, there actually is a quick start guide, which makes it a little bit easier once you get yourself familiarized with the rules as to how to play. It's just a quick reference sheet rather than having to go through the full rules book once you get an idea of the play of the game.
It's quite nice. They set it up very simple. Keep that on hand all the time when you're playing your first few times.
And then, of course, you have the cards themselves. The cards are basically broken down into 3 different types of... Well, the game cards, there's 2 different types of game cards. And then there's also the support cards and everything like that. So you have your bosses, you have your heroes, and you have your room and your spell deck. And we're going to explain now how they all interact together.
First are bosses. So when the game starts, each player is going to select a boss. You can do it randomly or select one. But there's a bunch of different ones to choose from.
So you're going to have bosses in there like King Croak or Draculord. There's quite a few different bosses in the game. You could have them assigned at random. Everybody just picks a card. Or you guys can kind of look through and decide which boss is your favorite. It really doesn't matter how you decide to break down the bosses. There's an equal chance of each boss being able to win the game. It just depends upon your own play style and what you want to do.
All bosses also have a special ability once they hit a certain number of souls. Next we have hero cards. There's actually 2 different types. There's your regular hero cards and your epic hero cards, which are these guys.
So as you start the game, the regular heroes are the ones that are going to start coming to your dungeon first, and then the epic heroes come out in later rounds of the game. A regular hero card is worth a single soul, whereas the epic hero cards, they're worth 2 souls to the successful boss, assuming you defeat the hero as it goes through the dungeon. The way the heroes are attracted to your dungeon is by different values of the various cards in the dungeon, which we'll get to when we play those cards. But let's just say the things that attract a warrior to your dungeon aren't going to be the same things that attract a mage to your dungeon. So the way that you build your dungeon up will determine what kind of heroes you attract to your dungeon and whether or not you can be successful in defeating those heroes.
So to build your dungeon, you use the room deck. This is the room deck. There's a lot of different cards. There's also 2 different types of rooms. There's monster rooms, which are donated by a little monster sign. And then there's trap rooms, which have a skull and crossbones. So you use these to build each room, or each dungeon.
And not only are there the 2 different types of rooms, monster and trap, but there's also basic rooms and advanced rooms. Basic rooms you can build at any time. Advanced rooms have to be built on top of a basic room with the same room attribute. So, for example, if you build a room that has treasure, which is going to be used to attract thieves, the only way that you can build an advanced room is if it has a treasure symbol that will go over top of that treasure. So it adds to the gameplay ability and everything like that, because it's going to make you have to make some choices as to which rooms you want to play, so that way you can get those bigger cards out. The rooms have different effects, and they will do different amounts of damage and things like that to the heroes as they come and crawl through your dungeon. And the heroes are going to have their own individual life attributes, and the goal is to be able to get that hero's life to 0 before they reach your boss at the end of the room. If you get the life to 0, you're going to collect that hero's soul. If you don't get the hero's life to 0, then your boss is going to suffer a wound. We'll talk more about the souls and the wounds when we do our playthrough.
And the next is the spell deck. So the spell deck is the other way to cause damage to your heroes, as well as there's other effects that can happen through spells.
Spells let you enhance the abilities of your runes in your dungeon, and they also allow you to mess with your opponent's rooms. So, for example, there's a spell in there called Freeze, and when you freeze a room, you basically ignore that room's effect for that turn. So if I see Dave has a 6-point hero coming through, and I know he's just gonna do 6 points of damage, I can play my Freeze spell as long as it's at appropriate time, freeze one of his rooms, take that damage out of the round, and cause that hero to be able to get through successfully and wound his boss. So now let's actually do a little bit of a playthrough of the game and show you how the cards actually interact together to give you an understanding of the game.
Let's play.
Play the game. Everybody play the game.
And welcome back to our game demo portion of Boss Monster. So for the purposes of our demonstration, Dave and I are going to be playing with our hands face up. Normally your cards are hidden and your opponent can't see them, but it doesn't really make sense for us to do that on camera when we're trying to show you guys how the game works.
These are our hands.
We'll explain what's in our hands and everything like that in a minute, but first off, we each randomly drew a boss, and I myself have Draculord. So as Draculord, what that is going to do is when I level up, once I've built 5 full rooms in my dungeon, target opponent reveals his or her hand to you, take 1 card and put it into your hand. Again, remember our hands are normally hidden for the purpose of this demonstration only. We have them face up.
And I had Robobo. He's an angry golem, and when he levels up, each opponent must choose and destroy 1 room in his or her dungeon. So level up again is once you've built 5 rooms onto your dungeon, and that is the max number of rooms you can have.
So now for the setup portion that we've already done. What we did is Dave and I were each dealt 5 cards from the room deck, and then 2 cards from the spell deck. And then once we had our 5 cards and 2, so our 7 total, we had to discard down to a total of 5 cards for our hand. So in my case, I chose to keep the rooms Dark Altar, the Centipede Tunnel, the Mimic Vault, the Advanced Monsters Ballroom, and the spell card Teleportation. We'll explain what each of these cards do as we use them when we play.
And for my hand, I kept the Vampire Bordello, the Room Jackpot Stash, the Dark Altar, and 2 spells. I kept Fear and Jeopardy.
And in the case of Vampire Bordello in Dave's hand, that also is an advanced room. You can tell the advanced rooms because they have the gold symbol up in the top corner, as opposed to just the regular room symbol on the top corner. Anything with the gold up on that top left, that's your advanced, whereas the other card symbols, those are your normal rooms that you can build at any time.
And remember, you wouldn't usually see your other opponent's hand. Just for this demonstration, we have them face out.
Now, as far as setting up the hero deck is concerned, this is something that we already did before play as well. With the actual game, there are hero cards that are specific to 3 and 4 player games versus 2 player games, so you had to discard any of the 3 or 4 player hero cards and just put them aside. We've already done that and set it up. At the beginning of each round, once we do our initial turns, we're going to have 2 heroes come into town, and then those heroes may choose to go adventuring in our dungeons, depending upon the dungeons that we've built. Now that we've got our cards assigned and we've explained the decks and how they're going to work a little bit, what's going to happen is Dave and I will each get to build a single room before we actually start our gameplay. So we look at the rooms that we have chosen in our hand, and we each get to pick one of those rooms to build. Once you do build your room, you're not going to be able to change the order in which the room appears in your dungeon, and they're always going to be built right to left. So you're always going to be building the room closest to your boss first, and then they're going to keep progressing out from there. So in my case, I think I am going to choose to build the Centipede Tunnel first. The Centipede Tunnel does a single point of damage. It has both treasure and knowledge tomes in it, and when you build this room, you may swap the placement of 2 of 2 rooms in any one dungeon. This is one of those few cards that will actually allow you to modify how the other rooms are set up, but I'm choosing to forgo this action curse because we don't have any other rooms.
Also, just to note, he has a sword and a tome, not a treasure and a tome. And I will choose the Jackpot Stash for my first room. This one also does 1 point of damage, and this one does have 2 treasures. So the treasures are money bags. And if you destroy this room, you double the treasure value of your dungeon's rooms until the end of the turn.
So, now we're going to start the turns themselves. As I am the boss monster with the largest XP value, I am going to get to go first. So, at the start of the turn, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put 2 heroes into town. So in this case, a mage and a thief are coming into town. And for these particular heroes, it'll take 4 points of damage to beat the thief, and 6 points of damage to beat the mage. So, then each player is going to get to draw a single card for from the room deck. So I will draw my card.
And I'll draw mine.
And then we're going to go into the build phase. In the build phase, again, each player will get to build a single room. So this is always done in secret, but for the purposes of our game where we're playing face up, you can see all the rooms that we have to choose from. I myself am going to choose to build the Dark Altar. Destroy this room, choose 1 card from the discard pile and put it into your hand. And the treasure value of this is 2 onks, so it will be good to attract priests.
And for my move, I'll use the same card as it's the only one I can. As you remember, these are both advanced cards, so they'd have to be played on another onk, but I only had treasure, so you can choose not to play a card, but I am going to choose my Dark Altar.
And now that we've done our plays for this particular round, what's going to happen is we're going to move along to the hero phase. This is where the heroes are going to choose which dungeons they're going to go to if they have treasure to entice them. So in this case, because in Dave's dungeon he has 2 treasure bags and I have none, the thief is going to choose to go into Dave's dungeon, where I have 1 Tome of Knowledge and Dave has none, so the mage is going to choose to come into my dungeon. Since I have the highest XP, again, the mage is going to move through my dungeon first. So first the mage is going to enter the Dark Altar and take 1 point of damage. Then it's going to move through the Centipede Tunnel and take a 2nd point, so now there's been 2 of the 6 points of damage done to the mage. At this point, I do have the teleportation spell sitting in front of me, and I could send the mage back to the start of my dungeon so he could take 2 more, but that's only going to give him a total of 4, and it won't get to the 6 that I need to actually defeat the mage to collect his soul, so I'm not going to play that spell, although it is applicable during this phase, and instead the mage is going to get through and hit my Draculord for a single wound. Where I am wounded, I'm going to tuck that card right underneath there, and you can see that single drop of blood showing that I'm hurt. If I amass 5 wounds, then Dave will automatically win the game.
Alright, so for my thief, he's going to make his way through the dungeon. I can only hurt him for 1 for the Dark Altar and 2 for the Jackpot Stash, which won't be enough to take him out, but I do have a Fear spell. What the Fear spell does is choose a hero in any dungeon and send it back to town. So I can send him back in the town for next round, so I have a better shot at fighting it. And the Fear will be discarded.
Now for round 2. We're going to, again, put 2 heroes into town. So in this case we have a mage, 8-point mage. Wow, that might be tough to beat. And then the Fool. The neat thing about the Fool is lured to the dungeon of the player with the fewest souls. He only takes 2 points of damage, so it's a great equalizer in the game if somebody's really pulling ahead. In the case of a game like this, where neither of us has a soul yet, The Fool's just going to remain on town. He's not going to get lured out into a dungeon until there's a separation of a tie. And again, where I have the largest XP as Draculord, I'm going to get to pick my room card first. In this case, the room card that I'm drawing is the Neanderthal Cave. With the Neanderthal Cave, you cannot build an advanced room on the Neanderthal Cave.
So I'm going to draw a Dark Laboratory. So when you build this room, you get to draw 2 spell cards and discard a spell card.
So again, we go into our build phase where we're each going to get to build a single room. This is normally done in a face-down hand, but we're playing face-up for our purposes. In my case, I am going to choose to build this Neanderthal Cave because it's 3 big points of damage.
And I am going to build my Vampire Bordello. Remember, this is an advanced room, so it has to be played on something with the same symbol. I have the Dark Altar, which has 2 Onks, so I'm going to play on top of that. Now I will lose an Onk on this, but I'll gain a 3 hit points instead of 1 for damage.
What's the special text on the Vampire Bordello again, say, Dave?
Once per turn, if a hero dies in this room, you may heal 1 wound. So if you kill someone in that room, you get to heal.
That's also nice for later on in the game. So, we're going to now go to the town and determine which dungeons the various heroes are going to go after. The thief, who's out there looking for treasure, well, my dungeon does not have a single bit of treasure in it at the moment. Dave has 2 treasure bags, so the thief is definitely going to go for Dave's dungeon. Where the mage is looking for tomes of knowledge. Dave's dungeon has no tomes of knowledge, where mine has 1, so the mage is going to come and find me first.
Now the Fool's not going to go anywhere again, as we explained. We're tied for souls, so he's going to stay in town.
So the mage will now start going through my dungeon. He takes 3 points of damage in the Neanderthal Cave, a 4th in the Dark Altar, a 5th in the Centipede Tunnel. Now, at this point, he would get through and hit my Draculord, but I want to make sure I'm collecting his soul, so I'm going to choose to use my teleportation spell now, which allows me to send a hero in your dungeon back to the first room of your dungeon. So I send that mage back to the Neanderthal Cave where he takes another 3 points of damage, giving him a total of 8, and that means I've now successfully defeated the mage and collected my first soul towards my soul total.
Now the thief's going to go through the dungeon. He's going to hit the Vampire Bordello and take 3 points of damage, bringing him down to 1. And the Jackpot Stash does 1 point of damage, also taking him down and giving him my first soul.
So for the purposes of our demonstration, this is as far as we're going to play through the game. The gameplay would continue with us continuing to build rooms and luring heroes until one of us collected 10 of those souls, and then we would be the ultimate victor.
Or if someone hit 5 wounds, they then would be defeated.
Thanks very much for watching our boss monster demo. As always, we'll give you the details in the details section below how you can pick up the game, or of course, support local. We love you to support your local game stores. We like to keep those guys in business ourselves. They're the ones that help pass on their love of these games to us, and we love it if you pass your love of these games on to them.
Most of the games we play here, we did learn from local game shops, so it's a great place to go. And as always, if you have any comments or questions, put them in the comment section below, and we'll answer them as soon as we can.
If you enjoyed what we did today, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to our videos. We always love to have our subscriptions there, and as always, you guys keeping subscribing keeps us wanting to make these videos. The more subscribers that we have, the more motivated we're going to be to put out quality videos and quality product. We're going to keep with our normal upload schedule. Hopefully we should have a new video for you in a couple weeks' time. Otherwise, thanks very much for watching, and don't forget to be the biggest boss you can be.
Get those heroes.